Hello, hello, hello. I'm so excited to see you guys tonight. This is the kickoff of Germantown SDA's Family Life Week. And I know it's Wednesday, so it's midweek, and we're going to do a little something today. And then on Sabbath, we're going to get together and we're going to have a grand time. But I'm so excited because I have two friends that are going to be joining us tonight. They are very dear to me, and especially in this world of counseling, coaching, you got to have a network, and they are for sure in my network. And so we have Denise and Oliver Marcel, and I call him Ali. And so I'm going to bring them on. We're going to chat with them a little bit, and then we're just going to go from there. So do me a favor, use the chat. Talk back to us. Let us know what you're thinking. Ask us your questions. We're monitoring the chat as well as we're just here to just kick it. So, hey, friends.
What's happening?
Hey.
We're just sitting here making sure we share it.
Making sure we share as well.
Yes, please do, because I feel like we have a message for so many people today. We're not just talking to those who are married. We're talking to those who are single. We're talking to those who are divorced. We're talking to those who are widowed. And ultimately, we're starting conversations around healthy relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I think of healthy relationships, I think of communication. And when I think of communication, I think of there is a right way to do it, and then there's a not so right way to do it.
Yes.
Then I also think of the verbal and the nonverbal, right? And so tonight we're going to talk about some of that, and really, let's help us. Let's help some of us really get this thing down pat, because what I love about you two is, first of all, let's just clap it up, because they have been married for like 24 years, okay?
Amen.
We're going to clap it up too.
Yeah, amen. Amen. We almost at 24. So in about a month and change, it'll be 24. So,
it's 24.
So listen, I have a running joke, right? Until the actual day comes, we have not been married for 24 years.
It's 24.
Right? She could divorce me next week. God forbid.
It would still be 24.
How we didn't get to the end though.
So when you tell your story, you'll say we were married for like 24. Like you're always
right.
So.
Now let's be clear though, for everybody who's watching the replay, we ain't getting divorced. That was a joke of jokes, but that's just my thing. I'm always like, I'm gonna wait till the day that the day that is the anniversary, and then I'll be like, okay, cool, we did it.
Okay. Oh, so you're gonna catch up, because Denise is always gonna be there. Okay?
Right? She's there. She's there. She matter of fact, she's probably at 27 or 30 at this point.
Oh, wait a minute now. But it's so good to have you guys on the show. I ran into you guys a couple of weeks ago at West Church. And so first of all, let's just give some context, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Denise and Ali, they live in the Maryland, DC area. They're there. And then I am over here in Delaware, and then Germantown is in Philadelphia, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I rarely get to see my friends. And whenever we're going to Maryland, I'm always hitting them up like, what y'all doing? But it's always last minute, because we're always
right.
So we're gonna have to do that, right? Where we're like, listen, on the 20-something of this month, we're gonna be in your town. Let's link up.
We can, right? That'll work. Yeah, we got to plan it in advance.
You got to put it on the calendar.
Absolutely. And so when I saw you guys at West Church, I was like, oh my gosh, my friends are here. And so I felt like it was a reunion, and I was like, come sit with me, it was like one of those things.
Yeah, it was good to see you.
Yeah, man, same here. I'm always excited to hang out with you guys, because when we talk a language of like, how do we do this thing, man? Or we encourage each other, like, keep doing this thing, because there are so many people who are struggling with just ships, right? Like, let's not even break down friendship, marriage, dating, just ships, the people you work with, the people you live with, the people you do service with, the people you fellowship with. And we're not always on 10, right? We're not always perfect. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I surely am far from being perfect. And so it's always me trying to be conscious of how I'm showing up in circles, because I could come across sometimes as abrasive. I could come across sometimes as, being ennui, that's the new word, like, oh, I don't care how you feel. But I need to make sure that whatever's happening with me does not affect my ships because they didn't do it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we're going to talk through, some tonight, and I think some tomorrow. And I also think on Saturday, Sabbath, when we get together, we're really going to dig in.
Yeah. Indeed.
So one of the things I love about the two of you is your passion to see people win. Now, they say sometimes we're not good with that. We're not good with helping pull people up or giving people tools. Lately, it's if you want the tools, you're gonna have to pay for it.
You got it right. Yeah.
But there are some of us still left that says, listen, I'm gonna give you just a little bit to hold you over, and then you're gonna have to find the rest along the journey.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the two of you is that faithfully, when I say faithfully, every Saturday night there is a broadcast.
Most.
Yeah.
It's every, whether if it's live or pre-recorded, it is every. Okay,
yeah, that's true.
This is true.
Yeah,
that's and even if it's most, that's still consistent because helping people win takes time and effort and consistency, and a lot of us don't have it because life be lifing, right?
Yeah.
And so, tell us a little bit about who you guys are, what you do. I know I just bragged on my friends, but tell us a little bit about what your background is.
So I'll let you talk. Let me just shout out Donna Brady Clark in the comments. She said,
"Hey, Donna.
So,
Good
what's
evening,
up, Donna?
So we are Denise. And sorry, did I cut you off?
No, you good. Go ahead.
Sorry. Denise and Oliver Marcel. Denali is the first three letters of both of our names. And we kind of said we're passionate about relationships and seeing people thrive and grow and live to their fullest potential of what God has called them to be. And we kind of stumbled into this. This is not what we do now. This was not on the radar for us. We did not plan this ourselves, and it just kind of fell in our laps. And God was like, "Yeah, no, this is actually what you will be doing."
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It is. I tell people all the time, if you had told me 15 years ago that this is what I'd be doing, I would be like, man, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like that's so far from what we're going to be doing. And and it didn't start out that way. It started out so to give you a real quick story. We were in a marriage group as participants.
Okay.
And for some reason, people would still come to us and just kind of pick our brains about what we had talked about, how does that play out in you all's relationship, that kind of thing. And I would always be jokingly like, hey, listen, fam, we here for the same reason y'all here. Like, we probably not the right people to ask, like we trying to get the same teaching y'all getting, but it kept happening. And so my background is IT. And there was a period of time in my IT career where I was working nights and I wanted to teach myself how to build websites. So I said, you know what, here's what we're going to do. We're going to quiet all these questions. I'm going to build a website and I'm going to make the website a blog about our marital life.
Okay.
And that was it. That's where the buck stops.
And that was it.
That was it.
Okay.
That was it. And obviously for God, that wasn't it. So it's turned into a podcast and YouTube stuff. And then in 2015, somebody asked us to come speak. And that speaking engagement, I remember it, June 20th, 2015. I remember the date. That was a turning point. I don't know if it was for you, but that was a turning point for me. When we got down off that stage, I was like, wait a minute. Maybe we're supposed to be doing something a little bit more than what we're doing right now with this. And that began the journey. Certifications, speaking, digging in with the YouTube stuff. And then in 2016-ish, into 2016, a couple comes to us and asks us to come alongside them and just kind of mentor them. And that was the eye opener for the coaching space. Yeah. So dug in, got more certifications, and just now here we are just asking God to show us what the direction is, because
what's the next step?
You know what I'm saying? We out here stepping and hoping that this thing slides under our feet when it hits the ground. Yeah.
Hey, Tiffany.
What's up, Tiffany? Shout out to Tiffany in the comments.
Yeah. So what, let me see. what do you guys do now, right? Because you talked about, you have this website that's going to sort of talk about the marriage bliss and all the things that the ebbs and flows of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you talked about some speaking engagement, but I know for a fact that is not all you guys do. So I want to ask you, like, what else do you do?
So we do speaking engagements. Yes, we do group coaching. We do one-on-one coaching. Of course, can y'all hear me? I can't hear myself.
We hear
Turn
you.
up your headphones.
Okay. We we're big in social media. We put stuff out there as well.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We're well, I'm gonna speak for us. You tell me if I'm wrong. The thing we love to do is the coaching space.
Mm-hmm.
The coaching space, and it doesn't matter, group or one-to-one. The coaching space is where we get to see God take stuff that we feel like is insignificant. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Take stuff that we feel like is insignificant and actually transform lives right in front of our face. And I get kind of chilly about that every time it happens.
So for the sake of just, this whole transparency, tell us what give us an example of what is that? What does that look like when it happens?
So I'll give an example of a couple that only I was working with by myself. And this couple, I can't even tell you how many sessions we did, but I can say probably the first 10 sessions, I was literally just a referee. I didn't feel like I was getting through to them. I was like, hold up, time out, hold up, wait, don't stop, don't do that, don't say. That's all 10 sessions. That's all I was doing, right? But I would always put what I felt like needed to be put out there. I would always end the session a certain way. I would always start giving them these tips, like, this is what you need to focus on. Here's what we need to try. Here's what you should probably stay away from. I'm still giving them everything. I'm giving them everything I got, even though I'm being a referee. One session, oh man, it had to be easily 12, maybe 10, 12 in. We're going through this piece on forgiveness. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something to both of them. And the husband broke.
Broke like cry broke?
Yeah.
Like opened up more?
Broke down.
Okay.
Crying. Looks at his wife, grabs his wife. She starts crying. And they start apologizing to each other. Babe, I'm sorry. I'm only trying to do this. And I just sat there. I didn't say a word. That was probably a good almost 15 minutes. I literally just sat there, quiet. The only time I interjected was I said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something like, this is the beginning of your journey to transformation. And I just sat back. I was like, let it happen. Just let it happen. And they're holding each other. And he's sobbing, she's sobbing, and I just let it happen. And I have moments like that. And we have moments like that quite often.
Yeah.
And it is, even me talking about it right now, I'm feeling some of the same thing I felt in when that happened. And to get to feel that, we're praying that we get to feel that as often as possible.
Yes.
So that's kind of the main thing for us. I would say the second thing, I absolutely love getting up in front of people, which is crazy for the people who really know me. Because you hear me doing a lot of talking, and it may seem like I'm a talkative person, but I am not.
Not.
And I am an extremely private person. So for me to say I love getting up in front of people, that is just in and of itself a testament to the fact that this a God thing. This ain't me. Right. Because if I had to choose, we wouldn't be on this camera right now. We'd be sitting upstairs watching our favorite TV show, and I could fade into the background.
Well, certainly the Lord has great plans for you guys, and I'm just happy to sometimes be right there by your side as you're going through it, and sometimes be way in the back, and you got to say it loud for the people like me in the back of the room, and so I pray that God will continue to bless your ministry, and that we will continue to collaborate as we have been.
Definitely.
I don't even remember how I met you guys, but I know it was probably during the pandemic.
I think so, yeah.
So we've just been sort of rocking and rolling since then. So
yeah.
Now let's get into the nuts and bolts of tonight, right? The topic is crucial conversations, the art of healthy communication.
Okay.
And so when I think of crucial, I think of the utmost important, right? It's like everything gets paused, everything gets stopped, all ears are listening, and we're really talking or learning something that is going to be life-changing or transformation. So the art, first of all, what is healthy and what is communication? Like, can we break those two things down?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What is healthy? Healthy is being able to express, I would say, whatever you feel without feeling like you're going to be judged or ridiculed. And then also when you're expressing, the other person needs to be listening, needs to hear you, needs to listen. And just listen, not listen for something so that they can give you some type of rebuttal on one little thing that you said, but literally listen. And then, how they always say about communication, repeat back what you heard to make sure that you heard it right, that you're listening and hearing well.
Yeah, if you think about a healthy person, right? A healthy person is able to do everything that they do. They get to be authentically themselves with no inhibitors. So if I am authentically a runner and I'm healthy, that means I can run as much as I want. My leg ain't hurting, my knees ain't giving out. So as it relates to communication and relationship, a healthy person as it relates to communication is able to authentically be themselves without any inhibitors.
Yeah.
Now, you can take that and put that on both sides of the fence, whether it's the person who is communicating or the person who is receiving communication. Now, if we're going to get technical, both of those people are communicating.
Yeah.
So authentically be able to listen.
Yeah.
Authentically be able to articulate. And do that without inhibitors. Or if inhibitors do arise, they can easily make adjustments to deal with those inhibitors. Right? So if I'm a runner and my knee starts hurting, I'm not going to spend 90 days in the hospital. I might have to just get a brace, or I might have to switch up my shoes or something like that. But it's not going to keep me from running forever. And so that's kind of how it is with relationships. If you're able to communicate effectively, efficiently, and in a healthy way, the authenticity of who you are is able to come through without inhibitors. Doesn't mean you won't have to make adjustments.
Yeah.
But you won't be in a space where you're critical.
So, as a therapist, when I hear the word healthy, it causes great pause for me because oftentimes healthy relates to perfect.
Yeah.
And if we really think about just our day to day, and I'm actually glad you used that word authenticity or authentic, because I don't really know that many of us know how to be that. And part of the reason we're even doing this series is because the Family Life Department wants people to know that there is such a thing called the inner child, right? And that is the place, or it could be referred to as the part of a person's psyche that retains feelings, experiences, and memories from their childhood. Now, I want you to think about that definition, because if I've had negative feelings, negative experiences, and I, for real, don't even want to remember anything from my childhood, then the inner child in me is stunted, right? And if the inner child in me is stunted, what ends up happening is every time I'm faced with some situation that could go either way, I tend to typically think of it from a negative lens, or from the lens that would point to my feelings as a child, my experiences, and my memories. And so I'll give you this example. I give this example all the time, but I'll give it tonight. What happens often is, let's call this person Johnny, okay? Johnny grows up in a household where Johnny's parents, remember, so the inner child deals with feelings, experiences, memories from the childhood. It's how and where we retain the memories, feelings, and experiences. So Johnny grows up in a household, and he has this kind of low-key personality. Maybe he's not the one that's always asking for things. Maybe he's not the rambunctious child. Maybe he's just low-key. So it was okay until he started school. And mom and dad have this conversation with each other, and they say, he's going to have to toughen up, because if he doesn't toughen up, people are going to take advantage of him. So they come to Johnny, let's say Johnny is 6 years old. And in that developmental stage, all 6-year-olds want to do is please the people who are their caregivers, whether if it's grandmom, uncle, aunt, mom, dad, whoever's raising them, right? Being accepted by those people is so important to them. So mom and dad comes and says, hey, Johnny, you're going to have to get some skin, because people are going to make fun of you. People are going to take advantage of you, and you have to be able to stand up for yourself, because we're not going to be there all the time, right? Now, the three of us hearing that, we would say, yeah, right. What's wrong with that, right? Because you want him to be able to stand his ground and stand for himself. So Johnny instantly says, oh, okay. So, but as human behavior would have it, he falls right back into being kind of nonchalant, just living in this la-la world, okay? Mom and dad have another conversation. They come back and say, you know what? He's not getting this. We need to really get him to toughen up. So they talk about different things they can do to teach him how to be tough. So eventually what Johnny then realizes is that my parents don't approve of who I am. Now, he doesn't say or think that, because his vocabulary, his cognition, his processing it's not there yet, because he's only 6. But what he does know is when I act this way, they're disappointed or they're even angry with me. So I have to now be who they want me to be. So what literally happens is Johnny starts to suppress who he really is. Fast forward, he's in middle school, and that's a very tough group, tough age. I mean, from the adult standpoint, and even from the middle schooler, right? So he meets people of all, because now you're like in middle school, and usually in that they're coming from all areas for that one building. It's not really like the elementary school where you're just all there. So Johnny does not like kids who are laid back. So he then starts giving them the same message mom and dad have said to him, because a seed was planted for him. And he's like, if you don't start like toughening up, they're going to keep making fun of you. They're going to keep bullying. He's saying this to this person. Fast forward, he's now an adult, and he despises people who are quote unquote lazy. You guys follow where I'm going with it?
Yep.
And so if the person is too laid back, if the person, may say, he asks, hey, where do you want to go eat? I don't know, wherever you want to go, I'm cool with it. He doesn't like that, because he feels like those people are lazy or just, a softie or whatever you want to call it. But what has happened is, because he has been suppressed, or his whatever is suppressed, it then translates to all of the ships around him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he is really not his own authentic self, because the authentic self would have had more balance maybe as he grew up if mom and dad had cultivated who he was and maybe not being so harsh about forcing him to change. And then you have to wonder what happened to mom and dad that's caused them to feel they need to impose this whole new person and change who he is. And so for a long time, there was this push to just give autonomy to kids, right? Within limits, obviously, but allow them to be who they are. Don't impose, your things on them, or the way we were raised. Kids, it's not that kind of generation today. And so when I get people in front of me, I'm always asking them to tell me what their childhood was like, because is there an inner child we need to rescue? And the way you rescue that child in like a quick 2 seconds is you got to go back and assure that child that things have worked out. So you got to sort of pull them up to, where you are chronologically, because, cognitively or mentally, you may still have tantrums. When we're talking about conversations, when we're talking about, what's the other C? Conflict. The way you handle it may seem from an outsider like you're throwing an adult tantrum. And I've heard that before. Yeah. So, just really trying to make sure that people are aware of what is happening when it happens. And then you get to decide, is this something I need to go take a look at? Is this something I need to talk to someone about? Because maybe what I thought was nothing is kind of getting to be something. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Johnny? Like, hearing that, what do you think? Do you know Johnny's in your life? And have you counseled Johnny and Johnny's partner before?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of the work that happens is getting individuals to really identify what is authentic, and then accept what is authentic as not being negative. And then once accepting that it's not being negative, also accept that adjustments may need to be made, but those adjustments are not indicative of, because sometimes we'll be like, oh, well, you said I'm fine, but you're asking me to make an adjustment, so maybe I'm not. No, that's not what's happening. And that's often kind of where we go back to what you said. You kind of have this thing of like, okay, every time I do this or say this, that's the reaction I get. So what I do or say must not be right. And it's not so much that what you do or say is not right. You may have to make an adjustment based on you being aware of who you are and your mate being aware of who they are and who you are.
And that's an interesting point, because in order to make the adjustment, I, for one, first have to say that I am aware of self, right? And knowing my awareness of self, understand the connection between emotions and behaviors and the origin during early development, right? And so, like, I didn't just wake up one morning and I was like this. There have been things for years that the pot has been stewing and brewing, and finally the soup is cooked, right? And so when we go to eat it, it's like, oh, this is nasty. Like, where did this come from, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think being able to, and here's the hope, right? You're not doom and gloom, right? This is not like a death sentence. If there is the desire to sort of do better, which we should all be striving for that anyway, or on some form of checking in with self to see, how am I doing? How am I really doing? How am I showing up in my relationships? How am I showing up just as, let's say, Armina? Then we're going to be looking to tweak some things. So yes, Ali, what you're saying is so true, but I think sometimes it takes getting in front of one of us, or even I see Terry Parks is with us, and even in front of a Terry Parks, to really kind of dissect what's really happening underneath the surface. Terry talks about Johnny and saying, Johnny hasn't or wasn't taught authenticity, which was taught passive suppression, right? So yes. And for Johnny, who at the time was 6, he just wanted to please his parents. So if they said do this, he's going to do it because when he does it, everything is good in the household.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I don't know that even to an extent that parents understand their role in a Johnny, you know, and how planting seeds, because we can plant all kinds of seeds. You know, we don't want to plant seeds that are together that the roots will take over, nor do we want to plant seeds that they're going to die, you know, or we put too much sunlight when that plant doesn't even require sunlight, but it is like right in the middle of the sun. So being mindful of the types of seeds we're planting for our young people goes a long way.
Yeah, it's important.
I was thinking about a couple that we coached fairly recently, and I want to know if this, I think this is kind of along the same lines, where one of them was doing a lot for the family, and you know, went to therapy and was like, you know what, for the extended family, not the immediate family. And he went to therapy and, you know, I guess spoke to his therapist about it, and his therapist maybe talked him through what he needed to do and what he didn't have to do. And you know, he went back to his spouse and was like, you know what, I don't think I need to do this, and I don't want to do this anymore. And the wife was like, well, you've always done it, you've never said anything before, why is this coming up now, what changed? And I kind of feel like maybe there was some type of suppression all of this time where he was just doing all of these things for the extended family that he didn't really want to do, but just kind of, you know, went along with doing it and got to the point where he was just like, you know what, I don't want to suppress this anymore. And, you know, went back to his wife and was like, I don't feel like I need to do this. I don't feel like this is my responsibility, and I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not going to do it. Is that kind of the same thing?
It can be, but so as we're talking about, what's the word I'm looking for? Communication, right? It sounds to me that there was a crucial step that was missed, right? Because when people, I know when I leave my therapy session, boy, am I empowered. I'm like, yes, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to set those boundaries. I'm going to draw that thick line in the sand. And I don't necessarily take into account how I got the revelation, the other people around me didn't, and how that is going to impact this relationship, right? And so it could be that the inner child of him, where he learned to sort of survive by taking care of people, although he didn't want to. But when he showed up and he did those things, they then felt like, you know, things are good. Like he's in good standings with them. So that's a learned behavior, you know. And it could be because of the inner child, but it could be just some other things. You know, we could do low self-esteem, self-worth. Oh, you know, we can go so many ways with that. But I think in this example you gave, he missed the step of communicating with his wife. Like, I'm not sure that I'm doing this for the right reason. You know, I went to my therapist today and this is what we talked about. And so it eye-opener and made me think differently. And so what I'm thinking of doing moving forward is blah, 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 blah. And now if the extended family was like her family, and then he just comes out of nowhere and says, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. Now you can see the conflict that could potentially happen between them.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting, man, because if you go back to the childhood piece, so many of us are taught that we're not taught that we need to make adjustments. We're taught that we should change.
Yes. Great point. Yes.
And those are two very different things.
Yes.
Like,
what's the difference?
What's the difference? So I if I had to give an example, I would say, for example, let's say there's something going on with this shirt, right?
Yep.
And an adjustment would be, okay, I'm going to take the tag out of the back because it's scratching my neck. Right. So I'm going to take the tag out so I can get a little bit more comfort. I'm going to loosen the arm a little bit. It's a little tight here. I'm going to loosen the arm. Right. Those are adjustments. Shirt stays the same. You still see the shirt. I still get to wear the shirt. But the adjustments that were made now allow me to wear it with a degree of comfort that I was looking for. Change is this stuff is bothering me, or somebody told me it doesn't look good, or whatever thing you can come up with, and I take the shirt off, throw it in the garbage, and get something else. But I put on that other shirt and I'm mad because I'm like, man, I like that 1+1 shirt. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, maybe there could have been some stuff that I did differently, but man, now I'm wearing this other shirt and that's not really what I want to wear today. But you now you're forced to wear that. And it's usually based on somebody else's fear and apprehension.
Yes.
Somebody else say, hey man, that shirt don't look good on you, man. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, but that could be, the shirt could look fine.
Yes.
And I feel like the shirt looks fine, but because they wore a similar shirt
and it wasn't,
and they was out there looking crazy,
right.
They're like, well, they project that fear onto you. And I think that happens often as it relates to parenting. And it's unfortunate. Like parents don't have a manual. So it's not even like parents are doing the best they can.
Right. With what they have.
With what they have and with what they experienced.
Right.
So they typically pass that on. And so I would say, just for anybody who might be, watching with small kids, you gotta really observe. And this is for married folk as well. You really gotta be able to observe and identify who your child is. What is their character? What are their likes and dislikes? How do they communicate? What happens when they get scared? What happens when they're happy? What are the things that contribute to either one of those things? And if you see something that is concerning, you got to do a couple things. One, you got to check that against your own fear. And then the other thing is, you got to approach them in a way that causes them to be able to identify who they are, be comfortable with who they are, but then also know that, hey, in order for who you are to be as great as you can be, here are some adjustments you may consider making.
Right. And that's so true. When we want to learn a skill or when we want to get another degree, we enroll in something, whether if it's a trade school, a conference, a certification program, or college, right? That doesn't just stop there. When we are really learning people, we have to enroll in their university. We got to take the class, and then we really got to sit in the front row. Like, we can't be in the back because we're going to miss something.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy. I took Emmy to camp today, and while we were there, she likes making these little rubber band bracelets. And so the staff told her yesterday, you cannot bring those rubber band bracelets anymore. And so this morning, as we're leaving out, she starts this boohoo crying about, these are my bracelets. It helps me feel safe. Right? So I was like, so why did they tell you can't bring the bracelet? I don't know. I was like, okay, so who told you? So she tells me the coach's name. So we get to camp. So I said to her first, is it okay if I talk to the coach? And she says yes. So I talk to the coach, and she's like hiding behind me. So I say to the coach, hey, I just want some understanding. Can you tell me like why they can't bring the bracelet? Is it like a rule? She says, well, no, the bracelets are everywhere, and it's not her. She cleans her area, but the other kids bring it too. So we just said no one can bring the bracelet because we are left to clean up the bracelet.
Right.
I was like, so cleanup is not built into the day? Like, because
right.
That's why she can't bring it. Then anyway, so I'm talking to her, and she's like still crying, and she's like, I want to go home. I don't want to be here today. And I'm like, yeah, girlfriend, you're gonna have to stay here because I gotta work. And so there's this coach watching me, right? And so I made a deal with her. I said, listen, if you can get through half of the day, I'll pick you up early and then we can go home. So she says, okay. But she says, now she's a therapist child, and this is an unfair conversation for me to even bring up. She says, I need a moment before I go in there. I want to take a moment to get myself together. I said, okay. So we walk back out and she's in the car. And I said to her, I said, let's pray. Cause I'm gonna need God to like do what he do with you so that you can go on. Cause I'm now late.
Yeah.
So when I come to pick her up, this male coach who I didn't even know was watching the whole transaction, he says, you need to be tough on her. And so I'm like, sorry, what's your name? Because the first thing you've ever said to me is this.
Exactly.
This girl's been coming for how many weeks? And, you know, we smile and say good morning, but we've never really had a conversation. So I said to her, for as long as I'm her mother, I'm always going to hold space for her. Now, you may have a different way that you do things. And I do hope when you interact with her during the day that you're not teaching her to be tough.
Yeah.
Because she needs to get her emotions out. We're not going to bottle that. That's what we're not going to do.
Yeah.
He was like, you know, I never really thought about that before. And I was like, great. And I left. But I was just like, you coming at my neck? Like, wait. But it just reminded me that there's so many people out there, and then we entrust our kids with so many different people that don't subscribe to the same way we do things. You know, I've heard the saying before, oh, you spoil her. And I says, yeah, you only spoil food. You can't spoil people. You give them what they need. Now, you looking at it, it may not look to you what you would have needed, but that's what she needs, and that's what we're going to give her. And so sometimes I feel like I'm constantly on this like advocacy for how I parent, how I do things, because some of these same people who are questioning me are some of the same people that at times she is with, you know. And so so just being able to, back to the whole thing about knowing yourself and being able to adjust and readjust. Now, I'm not saying that I'm perfect in my parenting, because God knows I mess up. But when I mess up, I will say, hey, I'm sorry. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I should not have yelled at you. Or maybe, you know, I took, I don't know, phone or TV for 10 days when it should have really been just 6 minutes or like 10 minutes. But now you got like 2 weeks and the thing is passed and we're good, but I still am holding you to something that we've already reconciled for.
Yeah.
So if I am aware of what's going on with me, then I get to check my parenting at the door. And I don't have that opportunity every single time. So when I do mess up, it's important that I go back and restore what just happened, because that is a seed being planted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Terry said something. Could you read it and let's kind of talk through that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Terry said sometimes in a relationship, the weakest persons control it. With the couple you coached, with the couple we coached, the wife was controlling the relationship. So the husband felt it and didn't want to do it anymore. He may have taken care of everything based on what he saw growing up, or that was his personality. The wife may have gotten comfortable and felt she didn't have to do anything because he handled it without saying anything.
And that's pretty much spot on, because part of the pushback is really, okay, who's going to do it?
Yeah. Right.
Not that it wasn't nothing like, okay, why do you feel that way? What's brought this on? Let me explain and clarify, and let's kind of figure this out. No, it's just, we about to be stuck, and I don't want to be stuck. So now that's where the conflict comes in.
Yeah. Right. I want to shift the conversation a little bit for the last couple of minutes we have together. I love the horseman thingy and then the shotgun thing. Can we talk a little bit about those two different things as it relates to communication?
What's the horseman thing? The horse.
Yes. I've heard you. Okay, maybe it wasn't.
You talking about the four? The four horsemen thing. Yeah, with so that's really a John Gottman thing where we're talking about
got you.
stonewalling and those kinds of things. And I don't have all four of them in front of me. I can't think of the top of my head, but I'm gonna pick the stonewalling thing just because that kind of stands out, right? Because we see it so much, right? Okay. So, and Parks is on here, so he can really kind of give a great definition of what it is. I'm gonna give the Oliver Marcel definition because based on what I see. So, we often see, like, even if you take in this situation in particular, right?
Yeah.
That Nisi just talked about.
The four horsemen. Got it, Terry.
Yeah.
The wife, right?
Wait,
Was
before you go on, it's criticism, content, defensiveness, and stonewalling.
Yeah. So the wife in this particular situation, to just give a little bit more of that story, then began to really kind of be, I don't know what's the best word, critical, if you will, to use criticism, like just began to really point out stuff that he wasn't doing. So now it kind of became like this, well, since you talking about what you don't want to do, here's what you really don't do.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it kind of turned into that. And then once he tried to defend himself, that's when, she kind of put that wall up. But we see,
I think even in seeing that, I think another way we see it is the cold shoulder, or what I call emotional jail. Like, I'm gonna put you in emotional jail until I'm ready for us to talk this through.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna talk to you until I'm ready.
Yeah. And that's what she was doing. So excuse me, she was shutting down. And now he got to a point where he recognized that he needed to figure this, he needed to try to explain to her and get her to understand. And so now he's really doing what you should have been doing, which is opening up, saying, hey, this is why I feel this way. I've been talking to the therapist. This is what we kind of going through. We kind of working through this thing. And this is kind of bringing up some things that I had never really thought about, but really are under the surface. And now she don't have nothing to say.
Yeah.
She don't want to talk. She don't want to,
And so with that, right, let's give some, if you're that couple that's going through that, let's talk about what are some things that you can do to sort of rectify that. Because when we put people in emotional jails, oftentimes what we're talking about or what we're doing is saying, I need a timeout. Not that they need the timeout, but I need the timeout because my emotions is way through the roof right now. And in all fairness, I may not want to say anything that would damage us even more.
Yeah.
But again, the misstep is that we don't tell the partner what's happening, right?
Right.
So even saying, can we just take a break from this? Or I need a break. Like, again, using I statements. I need a break to calm down or just kind of think about this. And then we can return to the conversation. So we just we know we need the break, but we don't think to say it. So we just take the break for everyone. Right.
Yeah.
So once we're able, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's a good one, right? Because there are people who fit into that category where they're not really maliciously stonewalling.
Yes, yes.
But they just can't figure out how to disassociate themselves for that moment so that they can, like your daughter, get themselves together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you got other people though, who they're maliciously doing that because their feelings are hurt.
Yes. Now, the other thing too with that is we don't do a good job in self-soothing. And if we did a good job in self-soothing, we could have the conversation and be able to self-soothe. And when I'm talking about self-soothing, I'm talking about thinking about the thing that you can use that helps you in that very moment adjust your mood, adjust your emotions, adjust your attitude. But for most of us, we have grown up on like shotgun, right? So it's like, whatever I'm feeling, you're going to get it. I'm going to say it right now, blah, 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 and that's it. Yeah. And we don't necessarily feel good afterwards, right? It's not like getting it out in that moment makes us feel good. But what happens is that's what we know. And so that's what we do. But that behavior literally damages relationships. It is not a healthy way to communicate. It is not a healthy way to manage conflict or whatever's going on.
Yeah. And it's so for those who don't know me, I'm a very I don't know what the word would be, but I'm the type of coach that I'm going to call you on what you're doing. if it's recognizable that what you're doing is malicious. Now, I'm not going to call you on it just to be mean, but I'm going to call you on it to show you how you can make these adjustments, right? Because what we don't often learn how to do is how to articulate our emotions when our feelings are hurt.
That part.
So what we often do is, instead of learning how to articulate, we react.
Yeah.
And then our reaction causes a counteraction.
Right. To the reaction.
Right. Which takes us down the road into some level of conflict. And we're not taught that it's okay for me to be like, hey, you know what you just said to me, like that was reckless. Like that was reckless. And here's how I feel as a result of that. We feel like that's the thing that's going to cause conflict. Now, the other side of me being able to articulate that to her is her being able to accept the fact that my feelings are valid and hold space for that validation, as opposed to shooting back at me like, oh, well, you shouldn't feel that way. You should be whatever, or whenever I do it, this is how. Hold on. That's not where we at right now.
Oh, so you asking people to be vulnerable, right? Because in order for me to say, hey, you hurt my feelings, or that just came sideways and like braced my neck, I would have to be vulnerable in that sense. But I think of when, at least the couples that I see, but by the time they get to me, they're at the tit for tat. Like, oh, you said this, I'll say that. And it's like, who's going to win, right?
Right.
Versus saying, pause for a second. Can we just acknowledge how that just hit me in my gut? Can we just acknowledge how, like, in this moment, I can't imagine that you really mean what you're saying. Can we just think about this before we go further? And you're right. We sometimes think that being vulnerable is going to cause the conversation to go left. But what we don't realize is already left. It can't go more left. I know that's not a word, but it can't go more than that, right?
Right.
And so just being vulnerable. If you're married, then this person should see you at your best. You know, the vows for better, for worse. You know, like the worst is when I'm at my lowest. That could be one of the worstest, but it's when I'm at my lowest. And do you kick me while I'm down? So then I'm going to get up and kick you too. And it's like we in this ring, like who's really going to fight? Who's really going to win this?
Yeah.
And I don't believe God designed marriage for winning and losing. I have this theory where even if you win, we have both lost.
Oh, without a doubt.
Think about it. There are no winners and losers in an argument or in a crisis or in any kind of conflict when it comes to a married couple.
Yeah.
Somebody walks away hurt or broken. And if that's your true partner, you feel that too. Or, you know, and so teaching people again, like how to fight fairly, right? Because you're going to have conflict. Conflict is a part of life. Let's welcome it. Let's not like be like, oh, let's keep things low. But there's a method to it. There's a way to do it.
Yeah. Parks, I see your comment. There has to be a level of trust for someone to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
I love what you said about the winning and losing thing. I told somebody recently, I was like, and same thing you said, if you win against your spouse, I was in a co-facilitating a men's group. I was like, if you win against your spouse, then you both lost.
Yep.
Because if you think about it, you and your spouse are a team.
Right. The same. Let's be clear.
The same team. So if you think about team sports, if I'm on a basketball team with four other people, in no scenario do I win and they don't. There has never been a basketball game where LeBron James got the ring and nobody else got it. Or whoever, Michael Jordan got the ring and nobody else got it. That's impossible. So either the team wins or the team loses.
Yes.
So and it would look ridiculous for me to be out there playing against the four people that are on my team and trying to block them from making the shot and trying to hold on, bro. You on the same team as me?
Right.
Why you slapping my shot out the court? Like we trying to win this and you acting crazy. And so but that's what couples do.
Yeah.
We figured that, we don't remember that we're a team, and we should be doing teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, right. So we have a few more minutes. Take us through that shotgun and procrastinator. Take us through that.
Okay. You want to do that?
Yeah. So there are a lot of communication styles, but we typically focus on 4 that we see the most
Yeah.
in
We've
the
kind of
couples
made them our own.
Yeah, we kind of made them our own. So the first communication style is the shotgun. This is the person that doesn't really think before they speak. They just blurt everything all out, and it's just like, "La, la, 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 I got something to say, and I'm gonna say it," and blah 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 blah. And they're literally firing at you with their words. It just whatever is in the clip is coming out.
No filter.
No filter. They don't aim. It's just coming out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the shotgun communicator. That's how they communicate. And then the second one is the procrastinator. The procrastinator is the person that is the literal opposite of the shotgun. They need time to process the situation. They need time to think about it. They need time to think about, well, if I say this, maybe the person will react this way. And, how is he going to take what I say? They just process everything, think about everything, and think about all the possible outcomes. That's the procrastinator. And then you have the hoarder. If you've ever seen the show Hoarders, you can imagine what type of communicator that person is. Holds everything in, holds on to everything, doesn't talk much. But then when it's time to express, it's a big deal because they've held on to everything and haven't said too much in a very long time.
Yep.
And then you have the non-confrontational, who is the person that's just like, I know it's okay. Well, whatever you say is fine. I don't really have much to say. I don't really have an opinion. We'll just go along with whatever you say. No need to make a big deal out of it. So those are the 4 that we focus on the most.
Yeah, and something that we tend to often say is that, especially when we're doing this in front of folks, that the goal is not for you to start pointing the finger and be like, you're wrong, to see, you shouldn't be doing that, you're wrong, right? And the example I often give is, a shotgun is a very dangerous piece of equipment in the wrong hands and mismanaged, right? A shotgun can also provide some level of safety. You have to care properly for a shotgun. You have to respect the safety feature. There's certain things that you have to do, right? So with all of them, you will have to make some adjustments. Like, you can't just be swinging a gun around in people's faces because that's dangerous, right? So you have to respect all of these in a way that allows you to make adjustments that will help you communicate with whoever your mate is. So, for example, she is a procrastinator. I am a shotgun. That caused hell in our marriage in the beginning, because the only time I need to think is the time I need to reload. That's it. But that's dangerous because I'm not practicing good safety measures as it relates to when I'm shooting, how I'm shooting, and what direction I'm shooting in. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just being impulsive, like the word that Parks used. But here's the thing. Neither one of us have changed in the 24 years that we've been together. She is still a procrastinator. I am still a shotgun. We had to make major adjustments, though.
There's that word again.
We had to make, in order for this to work, we had to make major adjustments. There's some things that she had to do. There's some things that I had to do in order to make sure that the authenticity of who we are remains healthy enough to not cause damage.
So, it's crazy. I was talking to Pastor Pete Palmer years ago. And he said one thing to me that has stuck with me forever. And what he said is, with the procrastinators, you almost have to set the stage for them. Yeah. Because if you think about it, those of us who are not procrastinators, or those of us who are coming with the problem, we have thought through this, and then he says this, and I'm gonna say this, and so we like play that whole conversation in our head, and then said person walks through the doors, and we're like, we need to talk. And usually the person says, okay, or like kind of like, well, can I get settled first? And so finally the conversation happens. But because I have my script in my head, I'm fired up and I'm like, bah, 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 bah. And then I'm like, well, you want, what do you say, right?
Right.
And then they're like, can I think about this? I'm like, oh my gosh, you do this all the time. And then it goes from there. So what he said is, the minute you decide on the topic, you reach out to the person and say, hey, I want us to have a conversation later. And the conversation is about, why do you always leave dirty dishes in the sink? Okay, just making that up. And so when we get together, maybe we can talk through or talk about or talk around, whatever we want to use, that language about it. It gives the procrastinator time to really process so that when the two of you get together, the conversation is a flowing conversation because both parties have equal time to work on the relationship. I mean, to work on the conversation.
Yeah.
But that's too much work. But what I also found out, it's too much work for me to stew over this argument. It's like, one of those boxing movies where they have the Rocky song playing in the background and the person's like they getting ready, right? Because I'm gearing up of all the things I'm going to say when we meet. And then I get so angry when you don't conversate back, or I'm sorry, conversate is not a word, by the way.
Converse.
Yes. When you don't talk back with me in regards to, how you feel about the situation. And I think, Parks mentioned we need to validate more before we attack. And so when I'm giving you this topic up front, that is a form of validation, because what I'm saying is I see, hear, and value you enough that I want you to think about this until we see each other. And if you want to be super, you can say, what time works for you? When is a good time to have this conversation? Because when I come through the door, you don't know what my day was like. You don't know how my boss was on me for something. You don't know how I lost a whole drive of things that I needed to present. And so to come home to then this without even checking in first, it's just not fair. And that is not the way we want. That's not how you win, right?
Yeah, that's not how you win. Yeah.
If we go back to that, that's just not how you win. Now, we said we would be done by 8:30, and I know some people may have to go. And that's okay, but I would like us to maybe stay on for a little bit longer because there's still some things in regards to those 4. So we talked about the 2, but I also want to talk about the other 2.
Okay.
Now, so I reached out to Parks because Parks is like, he is a gem in all this that we do. And I said, hey, you want to jump on with us? Because he's like blowing up the chats, but we want to him. And he said yes. But Ali, I don't know how to send the link. Can you send him the link?
Yeah, I can. Well,
the link I sent you.
Oh yeah, I can send that one. Yep, I'll send it to him.
So, saints of God in Christ and those who are watching, if you need to drop off, we absolutely thank you for joining us. This is going to, obviously it'll be on the rebroadcast, so you can come back and finish watching it. But I think we're really getting to the nuts of like what it is and how do we get to the art of healthy communications. And so, Denise, the other 2, what is it again?
So shotgun prayer. The hoarder.
The hoarder. What is that?
That is the person that just holds everything in. If you think about the show Hoarders, how their whole house was just cluttered with stuff. You could barely move around because everything they held on to, literally everything in their life. And so the hoarder is that person that just, they have stuff to say. They have opinions and they have stuff to say, but they just don't. And so they hold on to all of these feelings, all of these opinions, and they never talk about these things. They never have these conversations. They just hold everything in. So that's the hoarder.
Yeah, and it's and that could be because of any number of things, right? That could, going all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, that could be they learned suppression from somewhere.
Right.
And they learned that that's what they were supposed to do. Hey, you're not supposed to speak out. You're not supposed to speak up. You're not supposed to be outspoken. You're supposed to keep that in. And so they've adopted that. They've adapted in that way. Now,
what is some healthy? What would you suggest
for the hoarder?
Yeah, like how do they find their voice?
So there's a few ways. We're always going to suggest therapy, right? You because that may point back to something that needs to be dealt with.
Okay.
Right. So that's one thing. The other thing is that your spouse now can also be supportive in creating space for them to share and to open up. And what happens a lot of times is that the hoarder gets we kind of berate the hoarder, right?
Yeah.
Come on, man, say something. What you saying? Why you so quiet? No, right? As opposed to asking questions or
open-ended questions.
Right. Or setting up parameters that will allow them to organically move into that space.
All right, let's pause a second and from our buddy Trey Park.
Hello. Can y'all see me?
We can see you, Doc. What's up, Doc?
But we got feedback coming back though. Can you turn one of them devices down?
Yeah, I have my earpod in.
Okay. So welcome to the podcast.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Well, kind of. I don't know. But tell us a little bit about yourself. And, you were dropping a lot of gems over in the comment section there.
I just like to hop on when I see people, especially, Oliver and Denise. I love what they do. So I like to just hop in when they're talking. But I am a licensed clinician here in the state of Georgia. And I do, of course, therapy, individual couples. I was doing children before COVID, but since I'm online now, it's difficult for me to get the kids to focus online. And then there's, of course, bariatric psychologicals, domestic violence, speaking engagements, the whole nine. So, yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Do you have space? Do you have space on your caseload right now?
Do I have space on my caseload?
Are you taking new clients?
Would this be a referral from you?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Let's say that. Yeah.
Let's talk offline, shall we?
All right.
I'll commit with witnesses here.
For sure. But thank you for joining us.
No problem.
As you see, we're talking about the relationships and just communication. Do you have anything you can give us in terms of ways to communicate in a healthy manner that is effective?
Yeah, I think, what you guys have talked about has been excellent. When we're talking about communication, the saying everybody uses, some people listen to respond and other people, listen to hear. And I think what happens is a lot of times people will, the Gottman's four horsemen that Oliver mentioned earlier, one of those is defensiveness. You've already built up in your mind, you know what I'm saying, a strategy, and you don't even hear. You see what I'm saying? The person is saying, have you ever been in a, I'm going to call it an argument. See, this is funny because we did this in my women's domestic violence class last night. They were asking me, what's the difference between an argument and a disagreement? And I said, disagreements are okay. The arguments are not. Mm-hmm. And so someone has already built up in their mind what they're going to say, and they don't hear you. And so when you come back and say, well, you didn't even, I heard what you said. I heard what you said was, it's like, no, that's not what I said, because they had already formed their opinion of what was going on. So with effective communication, there is a sender and receiver. And in between those two is noise. Okay. And so what you're doing is listening. Okay, I validate. It's called what is that? Imago. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Imago therapy. It's like, okay, so what I heard you say was, you know, and okay, what I heard you say was you don't like when I leave dishes in the. Is there more? Absolutely, there is. Well, okay, continue. And so you keep doing that until you feel comfortable in a space where people are like, okay, now I get it. Or you can validate, you know what? I understand how you feel about me leaving dishes in the sink. Then you state the behavior because a lot of times people don't even know what they're doing because they're so upset.
That part.
I understand that you're upset with me that I leave dishes in the sink because you're yelling, you're throwing things, you're doing whatever. Denying me in the bedroom, whatever the case may be. And so when you name that, then you start to work on making the situation work. A lot of times what we do is we don't keep the issue. We make our partners the issue. And it's like, no, separate that. The issue is the dishes in the sink, not who it's coming from. Keep the issue in your relation. Validate. Okay, I understand. Sometimes the level one validation is unbiased listening. Okay, I'm listening without judgment. Okay. I always teach people don't judge because judgments do what? You know, people say, well, God can, God is the only one that can judge me, or they get the Tupac answer, that, yeah, only God can judge me. No, we don't judge because judgments block goals. They block vision. They block what you're trying to get accomplished. Well, you know what? I ain't gonna do that because I know he gonna say, or I know what she gonna say. And so the goal of getting something done or working towards fixing it now gets blocked because you are judging the process. And so, he's like, okay, I understand that you're upset about this based on what has happened to you in the past.
Yeah.
Understand how you feel about this because whatever biological or whatever something happened, or you know what? Let me take off my therapist hat. I understand how you feel because you know what, that happened to me one time, and let me tell you what I did. That's called radical genuineness. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking off my therapist hat because everybody thinks that therapists are perfect. And it's like, no, we go to therapy too,
Right.
We go to therapy too. It's like, how do you deal with all of that? I go and talk to my therapist. If you ever watched The Sopranos, Dr. Melfi went to her supervisor. She was, I can't deal with this mob guy. It's killing me, And so in relationships, what you got to understand, if you talk to anybody that's divorced or you talk to anybody that's separated, I guarantee you, it's about what? Two words wrapped up in one: expectations and assumptions. People don't have the proper, it's okay to set expectations. It's when you don't, that's where the problems come in. You ever heard couples that if you guys, have coached or, you've been in therapy and you hear people say, well, I expected you to do that because you're supposed to be or I assumed you were going to do it. You're supposed to be the one that's, and no one ever had the proper conversation in the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, Oliver talked about something, earlier. He said, Denise is still Denise and I'm still Oliver. Okay. Now, this is probably going to blow your mind. People are going to be like, how are you a therapist if you believe this? Follow me. I don't think people change. I think their circumstances do. Can people change? Absolutely. Do they? No, because that requires what? Accountability.
Yeah.
Accountability is the speed bump on the road to change. And no one wants to be accountable. And so if you don't want to be accountable, we do the familiar. We sit where we are. Well, I've always been this way.
Yeah.
You ever heard somebody tell you that? Since I've been a kid, everybody know I got anger problems.
Yeah.
So now you have to, and Mia, that goes back to what you were saying earlier about Johnny. He was basically, okay, we're giving you your roadmap of who you're going to be. So someone told you that you've always been a bad kid, that's why we call him, bad Johnny or whatever. So now you have to live up to that term, and you don't always want to be bad, but you have that. And so therefore it's like, we don't change. Our personalities form at what, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old? That's who we are. But when things start coming in our life, we start modifying and adapting and adjusting to what's happening. But in our core, when I'm done with domestic violence, those people are still who they are. They may have learned a lot,
Yes, yes.
but they're still given a certain circumstance, that thing may come out. There's probably some pieces of you and your husband, or Oliver and Denise, where, oh, I never thought they would behave this. What in the world is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Went there. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You
Mm-hmm.
went there, and there's parts of us that some folks have never seen because we've never gone there with them. But once
Yeah.
you go there, you're like, what in the world is
Right.
going on?
And I think you bring up such a good point, because one of the things that is consistently happening is we're trying to navigate life, right? And in trying to navigate life, sometimes we don't know what we're doing. We don't even we can't follow the roadmap. The GPS, the phone done died, so we don't have the GPS, and we are walking blindly. And so accountability, vulnerability, trust, all of those ability things, sometimes we shy away from it because it scares us.
Mm-hmm.
To the point, Parks, what you're saying is, we haven't even gone there because we're scared of what there would even look like if we went there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about being vulnerable, there's some hidden and not so hidden, reasons for, people not being vulnerable. What? They're going to betray me. They're going to, hurt me, harm me in some type of way. So it's just like, I'm just going to hold back. I'm not going to let everything out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to see where this goes and how they play it. And I think what happens is, in relationships, people miss the good parts of what could really happen because they're looking and judging what this other person is going to do. Well, I was hurt in the last relationship, so I'm just going to hold back on being 100% or being authentic, as we mentioned earlier, or as you guys mentioned earlier. So you hold back on things, and that person doesn't get the full you because of what somebody else did. And that's not fair. That's not fair to that person to do that, because that person didn't do that to you.
Yeah.
And so, we're kind of, hey, I don't want to be, trust is the vital piece of our, that the glue that holds relationships together. But trusting someone requires being vulnerable. How long did it take you to, be vulnerable in your relationship, walk around naked, get in the shower, oh, close the door on,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
the bathroom, you know what I'm saying? It requires trusting that person. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been good. I am, whenever I get in these circles, I could just keep going because these are nuggets, these are gems that, I can adapt and I can take and I can use, and we share information. Every time the four of us have been on several platforms before, and we always say, oh, we need a part two. Oh, we need a part two. We got to do this again. And I do think so. I think that this is a conversation that if we normalize healthy communications, then it's not so far-fetched for people. I think there's been so much hurt, so much trauma that many of us have experienced. And like Park says, we keep bringing it into new relationships. And so it's the same you, it's that inner child that is unhealed that continuously shows up in these relationships. And when we do show up in those relationships, the relationship does not last. Then we say, see, I knew it, right? Wait, was there something that I did? Where's the accountability piece about it?
Yeah.
And Parks, when you mentioned the defensiveness, one of the things to sort of overcome that in that space is to take accountability. And I never say take accountability for the whole thing, because both of you have that, you got to share the accountability together, so do not be defensive, but take the accountability and listen to understand. And most of the times we're defensive because we think the person is saying something that they may not be saying. So ask clarifying questions like, wait a minute. So are you saying da 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 da? That way I know before I react, which, by the way, we should always listen to respond, not to react. Reaction is not what we want. We want to respond.
Right.
And sometimes we got to walk away and communicate that, like, let me sit on this for a second. And then can we come back? Because when I come back, I guarantee you my response is going to be different. But if I say something in that moment, I will be reactive in that moment.
Right. Yep.
So we got like 2 seconds left. I want each of you to give me one nugget, or, if you could bless the people with something that they can take away from and begin the art of healthy communications, what would that be? And I'm going to start with Denise and Ali, and then we're going to go to Parks, and then I'm going to pray us out. And then, I didn't pray us in. That's all right. I will pray us out, and then we'll see you guys tomorrow. And then Sabbath. Tomorrow is not Germantown's thing. I'll talk more about that. But go ahead. Give us the nuggets.
Oh, I'm going to speak to the wives. We were talking about being vulnerable. And, as men, sometimes it's difficult for them to be vulnerable sometimes, because I think a lot of times men feel like being vulnerable is being weak. And so I think that we as wives need to create the space for them to be vulnerable. Let them talk to them and let them know, you are safe to say whatever you want to say to me. I am your safe space. You have to create the space for them to be vulnerable, instead of, why you don't never talk? You don't never open up. You don't never say nothing. That's kind of sounds critical. And it might make them not want to open up. Like, well, if that's how you feel, then yeah, you're right. I'm not going to open up to you. But if you create the space for your husband to be vulnerable, he may feel a little bit more trusting of you and become vulnerable.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, mine is I'll be quick so Parks can get in. Just understand that you are not bound to any one particular ideology, any one particular style, any one particular way of doing things. Sometimes you need to use more words. Sometimes you need to use less words. And sometimes great communication is actually learning when to do certain things and when not to do certain things, right? If I'm trying to put a thumbtack in the wall, I probably don't need a hammer. That's probably overkill. And if I'm trying to put, a nail in the wall, I probably need something harder than the bottom of my shoe, right? But they all serve their purpose. That doesn't mean I throw the hammer away or I throw the shoe away. Like sometimes it is about learning to communicate. Sometimes it's learning the parameters of communication and being able to craft strategy and understanding that the necessity to make adjustments does not negate authenticity or is not an indicator that things are terrible.
Nice. Thank you. Parks?
Yeah, so you said something earlier when you said we take this stuff into other, relationships when we're not healed. So, I want to give this example, and I think Ali and Denise heard it before, is we're all pre-owned, okay? We're all pre-owned. We've all been with somebody else before, whatever the case may be. So it's like, a car. When you buy pre-owned, what do you get? You get dents, dings, mileage, issues, all of that. And so what happens is that we feel that this one relationship is gonna, it's bad. So we go into this next one. The problem is that we don't get certified pre-owned. We don't get that 120-point inspection before we go to someone else. And we're thinking the next thing is going to help us when it doesn't. So to your point, we're going on to, so people need to get certified pre-owned. And that means, hey, I need to go to therapy. We all need therapy. You know what I'm saying? We all, just based on where we come from, where our ancestors come from, generational trauma, we all need therapy. And so I think by us getting into therapy and learning how to communicate with each each other, the divorce rates wouldn't be so high, and all the other ills of society that we have going on would be lessened if we do that. And I think that's the first step: going to get therapy, get away the stigma. Nobody's going to put you in a straitjacket. You won't be 1013 to the mental health hospital. And it's not a sign of weakness; it's actually a sign of strength to say I need help. And so effective communication is key. People, somebody in an argument, someone's trying to get their stuff out and they're trying to control it. In a disagreement, we're both looking to get to a solution. We both are like, hey, listen, I want to do this just like you do. So how can we make this work? Right. That's what we need to do. But disagreements are fine, but arguments are not.
Thank you. I love it.
Man, whew, thank you guys for feeding my soul, my emotions, my mental. I'm really good right now. And so Ali, Denise, give us 2 seconds of what's tomorrow, and how did I get tagged on for tomorrow? And so.
Yeah, so we do a YouTube show every Thursday. Well, we do a couple YouTube shows, but this one in particular every Thursday, called Inside the Relationship. It is a relationship show. It's a segmented show, so we have something that we talk about on social media, the media mixed down. We have question of the week. We have a marriage minute and a last word. And our good friend Armina is going to be with us tomorrow for the marriage minute. We're talking about going from trauma to triumph and how couples can still live out a phenomenal relationship even when there has been past trauma, and how to manage that, deal with it, recover from it, heal, and move on. Or move forward, I should say. Not move on, but move forward.
Awesome. I love it. I'm excited. And so tomorrow, I will share the link on my social media page. It is on Denise and Ali's social media page. And so you can go on any one of those and be able to just join in. And it's going to be on YouTube. What's the YouTube channel that they can search?
So the YouTube channel, if you search the tag that's right there, Denali LLC, you can search that in YouTube. It's Denali LLC everywhere. So it will be on our YouTube channel. It will be on our Facebook page. It'll be on my personal Facebook page, Oliver Marcel. And just go there. And if you want to, Armina's going to put it on her social media so you can get it from there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Parks, I love your flexibility and your adjusting to join us tonight. And Denise and Ali, thank you so much for joining us. Let's pray and call it a night. Father God, we are so grateful for the gifts that you have given us, simple people here on earth that just really want to see people live life to their fullest potential. And so you've given us the tools, you've given us the wisdom that we can impart on them so that they can still enjoy life while on this earth. And so God, I ask that you will put a protected hedge over us as we are boots on the ground doing the work, and be with those that have joined in tonight. Lord, you know what their struggles are. Let us be a resource for them. And if we are not the resource, Lord, let us be the vehicle that they get to the resource. And God, we thank you that you didn't make the head separate from the body. We thank you that you made us whole as one. And so when the head is not right, then the body can't be right. When the body's not right, the head can't be right. And so God, provide platforms that we can continuously talk about things like this so that people can be saved and join and be on this journey of recovery from the things that have happened that have not been so good, kind to them. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right, family. It was good seeing you guys. And so we hope that you will have a good night. Peace out.